Hello, good afternoon. Just waiting for a couple people to join us for the session about conversations with convention centers. Again, if you'd like, you can join us with video, and we can let you in as we get started here. Near the end, we can have an open chat. We will also allow questions to be asked, and we can kind of keep track of timing and see if we can get through everything. We have, today we're going to have some conversation questions and discuss with Laura Purdy from Enercare Center Exhibition Place. She's the GM, and once she gets on video, she can kind of introduce herself. And most people in the, I guess, Toronto region will know who Laura is from the CAEM Association, the Canadian Association of Expositions Management. And just waiting for her to get on, and then we can get started. Sorry for waiting. Hi, Laura.
Hi, sorry, technical difficulties.
That's okay. Thanks for joining us. I just did a quick, brief description on who you are, but if you don't mind taking just a minute to introduce yourself to the group.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Laura Purdy. I'm the General Manager of Exhibition Place. You know us best for Beanfield Centre and Enercare Centre, the largest convention centre in Canada. Pleased to be with you today.
Thank you, Laura. So we'll kind of get started with some general questions that have been submitted by show organizers and event managers that are curious to know what's going to be happening or what they can look forward to that's different at convention centers while they're hosting their events.
Great.
Some of these questions we may know the answers to, and some we may not know the answers to yet, and things are changing as we move along, but hope you can answer as best as you can. So the first question is, will the venue provide additional hand washing and hand sanitization throughout the halls and the venue?
So the easy answer is yes. One of the things that we've done as a venue is that we have prepared a reopening protocol. And this starts right from our own team members and extends right through to the experience that we have with our clients and attendees and visitors to the site. So increase in hand washing stations, and also on the exhibit show floor, for example, we are planning to install hand sanitizers at the base of every aisle, so that the experience on the show floor has a variety of ways that you can, wash your hands and sanitize, and then also certainly in the public spaces and in the Galleria and in the lobbies of Beanfield Centre and the corridors of Beanfield Centre.
Great, thank you. I know that you do have multiple washrooms in the halls, so there will be an additional hand sanitization, which is great. So people will feel more comfortable. There's another question here about how is food safety being handled for sampling food and drink?
Sure, food safety is a huge issue, as is general safety as we come out of this COVID pandemic. Both of our food service providers have come up with plans for Beanfield and for Enercare Center, respectively. With respect to things like food sampling, this is something that will require the show organizer to be working very closely with Toronto Public Health. At this time, as you know, everything is evolving and everything is moving quite quickly. But at this time, we are looking at anything that would be provided to the public would be in a sealed package. And that would likely be the case for any kind of food sampling, should public health approve food sampling at the time of the event. It is very fluid. And certainly every show organizer prior to their event is going to have a conversation with public health, especially on the food service side. Lerna, yes. Running the Restaurants Association show, that connection with Toronto Public Health is of critical importance at any time, and especially now.
Yeah, so we've always had that type of communication with Toronto Public Health. They do send us the pre-records. We communicate that with our exhibitors and reach out to each one of them to submit their application form of food safety. So I could imagine that it's the same situation. However, there might be some extra procedures that need to take place, which kind of takes me to the next question. Will venues be enforcing the cough and sneeze guard shields for food sampling booths? Like, is this something that you see perhaps that might be a prerequisite that we would need to maybe work with our decorator company that would have to have, you know, a 10 by 10 booth would have to come with a shield guard so that we can have proper food safety when we're handling samples?
So just as pre-COVID times, food safety and sampling is really, we give the general parameters of that in the venue, and that would come from public health. And then the show organizer would be working directly with their exhibitors on compliance, because the show organizer, you know, pledges to the venue to comply, and they in turn would then provide that guidance to their exhibitors and work with them on that front.
Yes, so we're looking into that right now ourselves. We still have some time and things may change again, but it's always good to be prepared at least, so we can update our exhibitor services kit as we're booking exhibitor booths at this moment for next year. We can just give them the heads up that these are some of the things they need to prepare before they come to the show. So let's go on to the next question. How is information going to be communicated between all the stakeholders? I guess this is, I know that the exhibition place does send out newsletters to communicate with their members and organizers. So how are we going to have the same type of communication looking forward to any new updates with COVID?
Well, with respect to COVID, you know, the protocol plan that we have created, we've actually had meetings with Toronto Public Health, and they've signed off on that document. When we are ready to resume and when we have the approvals coming from the province to resume, we will be disseminating that same document to all of our clients. And right now we're putting the final touches on that document, and we'll be rolling that out. It's a document that we have. We want to have an opportunity to have that conversation that goes back and forth. So we'll be rolling that out client by client by client as we go through the calendar.
Great. Let's see here. So this is kind of a question that I had because, as you know, our event has multiple stages. Let's say about 8 to be exact, and we always have our seating, audience seating, you know, just as normal, like right next to each other. It's a question that we've kind of come across and think, do we just eliminate audience seating or stages, or does it make sense to have 6 feet apart? Like, how would that look? I know that we we don't know just yet how things are going to pan out. But what would your, I guess, opinion be on seating, for audience seating, or even meeting rooms and conferences? We have so many of these things part of our event as it is, and we're just kind of talking about that.
It's a great question. And we've looked at that as well because, we have part of our business is meetings and conventions. Part of our business is exhibitions and trade shows. And there are some similarities and overlap, and in some cases they are very distinct and different. So when we look at, for example, the exhibition side of the world, there's a few things that we're recommending that the show organizer take a look at. And one is, can you treat your stage area as a time ticket? Can you look at that and operate that as a little event within your event? Therefore, you know who's coming in, and you can arrange the seating and arrange the capacity based on that time ticket. So you may have to adjust your presentation and have a number of turns and flow, but you have a handle on controlling access into that space. And it works quite similarly for the meetings and conventions. One of the advantages that we have in Beanfield Center, where we host most of our meetings, is that we can actually simulcast between rooms. So you can utilize more than one space and simulcast that presentation directly through our in-house AV. And that helps when you're talking about social distancing, because I think we've all seen the pictures of seats that are 2 meters apart and how that reduces your capacity. But the ability to utilize more than one room and to have those simulcasts, and then to look at that time ticketing again. I think from a recovery point of view, time ticketing and registration is going to be key.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we're looking at. And let's remember too, the 2 meters is what exists today.
Correct, exactly.
And events aren't happening today.
Exactly.
So that number can change. And one of the things that we've done in our plan is we've actually utilized a variety of different physical distancing numbers and modeling. So we've given examples of what it could look like at 6 feet, at 4 feet, at 2 feet, and how that changes the capacity. Because quite frankly, we don't know what it's going to look like when we have the approval from the province to reopen. We could have a very different physical distancing number than we have today, and we need to all be prepared for that. So it's very fluid, and it's something that as organizers, you're going to have more than one plan. And you're going to have it on the shelf, and you're going to have to say, my event is coming up, in this particular month, and in that month, this is what the world will look like. Flexibility is going to be the key.
Yeah, I guess you just have to have, like you said, the plans ready and then adapt to that specific situation at that given time of your event.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the feature that you just mentioned there about is it the Comcasting you said?
The simulcast, yeah. The simulcast is really great. We actually built that into the building at the onset in anticipation of, a future of hybrid meetings. And, with the infrastructure that exists in that building, and also utilizing, our official AV provider through Encore, a lot of those hybrid abilities, exist and are readily available now.
Yeah, that's something I didn't know that you had, and I'm very grateful that you do. So that's good to bring up in our planning meetings for sure. And based on the comments I see here, Mikey and Lori also commented that it's a very cool feature to have. So thanks to Exhibition Place Enercare Center for being forward thinking. So let's go on to the next question. This is something that kind of comes up, this term that nobody really actually paid attention to in the terms and conditions on a contract. What conditions would qualify for the force majeure clause to apply in relationship to COVID between now and the event? Everybody has this burning question and concern, actually, and it goes both ways. It goes to our exhibitors asking organizers, and then our organizers asking the venues, and then the organizers asking the suppliers. Mm-hmm. So everybody really wants to know what's happening.
It's a great question, and conversations around force majeure started with us in February of this year. And it is, you're right, it's a little, it's a clause in the agreement that not many people paid a lot of attention to outside of their legal, right?
Yeah.
Outside of their legal department. And it's a hugely important clause. And, you know, it does vary from venue to venue. It does vary from hotels versus convention centers. Really, the best thing that you can do is, one, have your legal take a look at force majeure. What force majeure is it is the ability for parties who to suspend operations of their business based on a variety of reasons, and the reasons are typically named inside the license agreement or the legal contract. And force majeure is actually a legal test. So you can't just claim force majeure because of whatever reason. It usually is named and specified. So if we, I'll use something that's not COVID, because I think we're all a little tired of COVID these days. So a fire, for example. Right. So if there is a fire and the venue is not available to be used in a safe way, that could be a reason for invoking force majeure. And I think one of the nice things about our force majeure clause is it's super clear. We list all of the areas of force majeure and what those remedies can be. And I was really very comfortable with our force majeure language because it was clear in a way that was easy for our clients to understand and take a look at that and make the evaluation based on whether or not COVID-19 at the time was applicable for force majeure. Right. You can't assume force majeure.
Exactly, that makes sense.
You can't say my event is in December and I'm claiming force majeure, because that's not how force majeure works. It's an immediate actionable issue that would render the venue inoperable. So it's really important. It also has other, depending on the force majeure clause, of course, it also has other requirements, such as Toronto Public Health making orders, which we've all been under right now. I mean, we're currently under orders from Toronto Public Health for restriction of gathering, and for events that are happening in the immediate term, that's applicable.
Right. So, I mean, exactly as it stands today, if somebody's booked for an event in July, then guess what? That's force majeure, because you cannot have a gathering of more than 10 at this point. So, so that would qualify. But so yeah, our event is next year, 2021. So we're hoping that we're going to be all good to go by then.
So are we all.
Right. So I have actually a question here, a couple questions I see here in the chat. I guess these are kind of related to our topic, but so it's directed to you, Laura. It says, how do you anticipate incorporating capacity restrictions in your modeling for your rate card for space? I think that's it's a very variable answer, I think, for that one. Right, and it says 1/3 capacity allowed. How can it promote for the same venue rates? I guess you want to just touch on that quickly.
Sure, I can answer it this way. We have looked at the opportunity to have capacity percentages of occupancy. One of the things that we've done at Enercare Centre in particular, because we are the largest venue in Canada, we have a lot of space, and we have a distinct advantage when it comes to circulation and air circulation and spatial demands as it relates to public health and physical distancing. So our plan for Enercare Centre is to retain the maximum use of the show floor for booth space, but to restrict the number of attendees based on a percentage capacity. So what this does is it allows all of our clients to maximize the show floor in a way that allows the event to be profitable, because let's be honest, an event for an event's sake is one thing, but if you're not going to be profitable at the get-go, that's an important aspect for the show to consider. whether or not they proceed. And that was really, really important for us as well. So we made some slight modifications on the show floor plan for washroom access. And of course, as we all know, that's a pinch point in any building. We have to accommodate for physical distancing. So we anticipate that there will be a queue for the washrooms. And so we have made some slight modifications on the max out floor plan to allow us to have a queue for washrooms, and so that we can appropriately monitor the number of people going into the washrooms, and more importantly, the number of people at the sinks, so that we can make sure that that's really where you're in close proximity within the washroom. So that had some very minor modifications to the floor plan, but outside of that, we're looking at a fairly standard floor plan for our building. I can't speak for every convention center. Every convention center is going to have to do that work and that modeling for their own floor. But for us, it allows our show organizers to sell a very achievable floor space. And then we work from there on how we control access for the attendees coming into the space, and what that looks like for physical distancing. So there's some modification, but for us and in our building, like right now, if we were to have let's say we were 4 months ago pre-COVID, our physical distancing capacities are pretty much 6 feet.
Okay.
Right now we know that Toronto Public Health wants to open that up and have more space than just the 6 feet, because you're bringing in hundreds, if not thousands, of people into the space. So there is likely to be an accommodation for capacity of attendees, but not booths.
Okay. So that's something that I guess we would have to work with as organizers with the venue, and really figure out the numbers in different situations, scenarios, like how is it today, how it might be, and so forth, different examples. And then
again, this is today, right? I can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
The conversations that we've had with Toronto Public Health talk about today and what it looks like today. We have done these modelings as to what that looks like when physical distancing reduces in numbers, and how that builds on our attendee base. But we've taken our plan, we've walked it through with the general service contractors already, and talked to them about what that could look like. So as we roll it out to our client base, they'll have a better idea of how their show floor can look from an execution side.
I think as an organizer, it's comforting to know that we're not trying to figure it out on our own. Mm-mm. The venue and the official service contractors, suppliers, everybody is really going to be on the same page when it comes to working on the event. So nobody's really going to have to guess what we're doing. These are protocols that are going to be firm in place, different scenarios, obviously, as things can change. But Bruce asked a question, how are you working with the event operations manager, on the official service contractors, and other contractors? So that kind of, it's all going to tie in together. I don't think there's going to be much pressure, I guess, on the organizers to figure it out, because we're going to take direction from the venues who are speaking with the correct parties, such as Toronto Public Health, to make sure that everything is set up to be safe and comfortable for our attendees and exhibitors.
Exactly. And as you have to remember that you need to consult and you need to collaborate and use your industry associations. I've been a part of the recovery task force for CAEM, and it's a national task force that is comprised of clients and suppliers and venues. And we have looked at a protocol on the exhibition side that can relate to all of our business across the country. Because remember, we have a lot of our clients that have events right across the country in different provinces, and they go on a road show every year, and they want to know what to expect in every province. So CAM has put forward a really solid plan as it relates to recovery and what that looks like for the exhibition industry. I know that the Convention Centers of Canada. I sit also on a task force for that recovery. We're also talking across the country about consistency.
I was going to say, I think that's so important because, yes, provinces are differing on their rules and regulations, but I think having a base protocol throughout each venue or event will really help organizers if they decide to do multiple events across the country now, because they don't think that people will want to come into an annual show in Toronto. Like, this is something we've kind of discussed as a team. Should we do stuff on the West Coast, on the East Coast, and have something central, just to make sure the right people are still coming, because we're going to have maybe limited amount of people that are allowed to attend the annual event. So I think having a streamline or consistency across the rules would be very helpful for organizers. So I'm happy to hear that. I see Danielle. I just wanted to add something to Steve's question about working with event operations manager. She asked, what about including a lineup space? I believe you did mention that about the bathrooms and pre-function space for room rental to allow for more physical distancing. I guess you could just quickly touch on that.
So I'm just trying to find that
yes,
question.
It's just in the chat in the section tab. Okay. So on the right-hand side, it's
lineup for prepaid room. Okay, so lineup space as far as accessing the venue is going to be an issue, and it's going to be an issue because people are coming in large groups. So again, we're going back to the time ticket. At this point, this is the model that we're looking at, so that you would have multiple turns of your event per day. And so therefore, you're only bringing in X number of people for their time ticket. We've done some preliminary plans in Enercare Center, in our Galleria, as to how we would enter each exhibit hall independently. So we have a coordinated effort where you have one point of entry and one point of exit per exhibit hall, so that we'll have lineups coming in and out of the building, so that you're not gathering in the common area space. And things like registration and ticketing, we're encouraging our show organizers to go for an online ticket a registration program, so that they're looking at a platform that people will have already scanned. Basically, they need a scan to get into the venue. They're not assembling to try and get to buy their ticket. And the same thing works on the meeting side as well. Typically it's easier on the meeting side because you've already done your pre-reg.
Right.
And you're coming in, and you'll generally be scanned, and then you'll be proceeding into the venue itself based on a time ticket.
And I think that kind of helps organizers too, because you know who's coming. Yeah, and there's no guessing. Oh my gosh, are people going to show up to my event? This gives people the opportunity to, organize their time, pick the time slot that works for the best of their schedule, and show up in that couple hours. And you know what? They will find parking, because there's going to be, a limited number of people coming, and they won't have to wait in line because they're pre-registered. So yes, it might look different. There might not be enough people, but there are the benefits of that. Everyone's time is valuable, so we want them to come into the building and out, within their time frame very smoothly. And I think it just might actually help us be a little bit more organized and get the right people through those doors. So
I see Steve's question here with respect to consumer shows. It actually does work for consumer shows. You're going to be looking at some kind of a time ticket for your consumer shows.
It's like Disneyland, right? I don't know if anybody's been to Disney World in Florida. That's how they had their showings. You had to go in a certain time slot in order to enter the park, and that's how they did their crowd control. So it's that kind of model, and I think it will work. I think people meaning, the attendees, will be used to this type of model, because I think that's just the way that we're going to have to go through for the next couple of years.
And the attendees are going to be looking for control methods as well. to make them feel comfortable coming to venues in larger groups than they've been allowed to, they're going to look for these kinds of methods of control so that they know that you're looking after them and their health as well.
Yeah, I feel like it's also hard to compare to how people have accepted or reacted to those type of models, because they weren't forced to use those models. And if we're going to be forced to use these type of models as to make sure our business is open and events continue and exhibitions open up, then I think people are going to be more accustomed to, okay, I don't have an option. I have to actually choose the time slot that works for me. And, it'll be reciprocated a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm. And it allows for contact tracing. It allows for
Yes.
you to have a better handle on your consumer base and who they are and where they're coming from and how long they're staying. It does give you, as an organizer, a lot of data that you
Absolutely.
typically wouldn't have had previous to this pandemic. So
Right.
sometimes we have to look for a little bit of the silver lining in all
Absolutely.
of this frustration.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing our show for 75 years, so maybe this kind of shook us up to change things up and, maybe take off some pressure somewhere else and reinvent a different process, right? So before we move on to another question, there's a question from Claudia Molina. With food packaging comes more garbage. Yes, this is actually something that I was discussing with my group of friends. How is it being managed now that we have to wear masks and some gloves and such hazardous wastes? How is this now? Obviously, it's creating more waste, which is not the best thing. And how can we manage and promote an environment where people are going to be using these items, but they're going to be disposed properly? How is the Enercare Center Exhibition Place handling this?
So we're doing it in a couple ways because we had the same discussions as well. For anyone who's been in our venue, you know that sustainability for us is of paramount importance, and we're a LEED Platinum building. We're a LEED Gold building and a LEED Silver building in Enercare Center and Beanfield Center, respectively. And so sustainability was important. So we have 4 streams of waste diversion, right? So we have your compost, your paper, your glass, and your actual waste. So as we move towards the recovery phase and reopening phase, the waste is really where your masks and gloves are going to be disposed of. And we're actually updating our all of our signage in our venue for on the garbage side of things, on the waste side of things, to show this is where masks and gloves will go. Yeah. So we have little icons that we're going to put on that garbage. And then there is a protocol with our housekeeping staff that they need to follow when removing this waste.
Right.
And the other thing that we're doing as a venue is we're applying for the GBAC standard. And the GBAC standard is the Global Biorisk Advisory Council, which is a third-party certification of venues and hospitals on their quality of sanitation, and that includes waste diversion and waste removal, so that we actually have a very stringent process for our housekeeping, our cleaning and sanitation processes, and our waste removal processes that are covered in the GBAC standard, and we are evaluated on that standard before we're certified. So the public will know that we're a GBAC venue. Right now, there's just a handful of venues in the States, some of the larger ones, McCormick and Orlando in the States, that have been certified. We've submitted our certification, so we expect to hear back from GBAC shortly. But this is an area of critical importance to us as a public venue. We want to make sure our attendees are safe. We want to make sure our exhibitors are safe, our organizers are safe, our employees are safe, and going through the GBAC standard does achieve that.
Yeah, and it does give us organizers some relief and confidence that you've done everything that you could possibly do to keep everybody safe. So definitely gives that comfort level. Let me move on to another question. I guess it kind of goes with this too. It goes, so since there'll be needing more cleaning staff to ensure cleanliness and sanitization of bathrooms and common areas, does the event organizer pay for those increases in the labor costs, or is this part of the rental fee? Like this is something that is a protocol for the venue at no matter what event. Obviously, the bigger event, the more staff. But as we want to make sure that everybody's feeling comfortable entering the building, how are you working with event organizers on costs, labor costs for this?
So cleaning is going to be a critical issue of importance, and this will, I can speak for our venue. I can't speak for every venue. It's going to be something that each venue is going to take a look at. For us, when we look at sanitization, and that is sanitization of the space prior to occupancy and every night during the meeting, convention, or show. And we look at the washroom attendants, and we look at the attendants that are in the common area space. Those common area spaces are something that we as a venue feel that it's our responsibility, and we will shoulder that responsibility. The cleaning products that we're now using are all hospital grade sanitation products, and we've brought in new technologies already that we are utilizing for sanitation. So those things are going to be the venue's responsibility. Where it comes into the client responsibility is if we have exhibit booths that are going to be cleaned, just like you would normally have a cleaning quote done for your exhibit booth. That would be, again, the exhibitor's responsibility. And then with respect to labor, for us, when we look at labor for any show, we work with the show organizer on what those labor costs are. But when we're looking at the common area space and the high touch point cleaning spaces for common area space, that's the venue.
Thank you. Yeah. So the next question would be, how is the venue monitoring their staff for COVID-19? Like, do you guys already have protocols? I'm certain that you're not at full capacity right now, but I'm sure that the protocols are in place for when everyone returns.
Sure. So, in addition to the protocol document that we've done for our clients, we've also done an internal protocol document for our employees. And that takes us right from the interview process when employees come in on site. Well, first of all, let me say this. We have many of our staff members that are working from home right now during this period. We do have some of our operations and facility staff who have continued to work in the building because as a venue, we have legislative requirements for the operations and for things like fire safety and servicing of certain equipment and mechanical. So we have had our teams on site, and they are asked prior to every shift the questions that we look for symptomatic COVID questions prior to any entry into the venue, and that will continue. We will have a separate protocol for all of our employees when we do return to work on more of a full-time basis. But right now, we're like everyone else in the world. I think we're doing a little work from home. That's right. Where I am today. That's where you are today. Yes. And but we will be having an interview process for all of our employees as they come on. And we're also talking to our general service contractors because they shoulder much of that responsibility. And so will our clients when we talk about exhibitors coming into the building. So that's not just our employees. It's going to follow right through every person coming into the venue to work.
Yeah, I think people are going to expect that as well. It's just happening. It's going to probably happen at every office space where people are going to be gathering. Everyone needs to stay safe. So let's see another question here. How have you been handling postponements and reschedules of events? I'm sure that's been very challenging. I know that we've had good conversations about, a change of dates, and how have you been handling that scheduling?
Well, first of all, Judy Mahoney and her sales team have been doing an absolutely incredible job. They're doing the job that is the opposite of their job.
Yes.
So for the, for the
Right.
first 3 months, they were essentially unwinding all of the business that they had worked very hard to attain and to bring into the city of Toronto. So it was a difficult process at the beginning. Again, looking at that force majeure clause, and it was one event after another event after another event. I mean, I don't even want to tell you how many how many months, and I know we're not the only venue that's been going through this. So
Right.
essentially what we've been doing is we've been working individually with each and every client as we go through the calendar, as we look at the force majeure period and what that entails. And our sales teams have been working to postpone as many events as possible. We all want to get back to the business of events. And we want to make sure that we're facilitating all of our clients in date patterns and space patterns that work for them. So we've been working very diligently. The sales team has been busier than ever, trying to accommodate more than one group of postponements. I mean, we all anticipated that those events that were happening in March and April could perhaps happen in May and June and July. So
Right.
they've postponed some events not once, but 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
in order to try to accommodate, and they continue to do so. We're here because of our clients. We're here to have events. So that's the work that they've been doing, and they've been, also in market talking to clients to see how they are, and to make sure that they're coping, because this has been devastating for our industry, quite frankly.
It's the whole hospitality industry as well, right?
Absolutely, and as a venue, as a show, you might lose 1 or 2 shows. As a venue, we've lost everyone's shows. So everyone's commiserating, I think, a little bit together. We're all in this together. We're supporting each other, and that's really the thing that I think is going to take us to a place where we can work together and manage together when we reopen, because this is not an isolated thing.
No, exactly. It's very important that we all just remind ourselves that we are in this together, and it's not even like the city, the country, it's the world. So
and we're nothing without each other.
Yeah, of
right.
course.
I mean, we really, if this hasn't shown people how much we are interdependent on one another for our joint success and the need for face-to-face, I don't think there's anything that's going to happen in our careers that will ever have the impact that these last 4 months have had. And we have to work together. We have to collaborate together. And I think some of the work that CAM has done has been outstanding. The work that the Convention Centers of Canada has done, again, bringing together all of our industry to work as one. And we will get there. It is going to be a long road, but we will get there together.
Yes, thank you. I'm done with my questions, and I'd like to open up the chat to other people who have questions. We have about 5 minutes, I believe, left. Oh, hi, Mikey.
Hey, I just wanted to say thank you, Laura, for coming on here and doing this. I know it was very informative and probably our most popular session by far. So thank you again for this and some great answers and great conversation.
My pleasure.
Yes, I appreciate it myself, because I have our event taking place in your venue. So a lot of my questions have been answered, and I really did not have any doubt. I know the level of the Exhibition Place Center and how things are organized and put through. So I didn't really have a doubt, and I always knew that I can count on the experts to really figure out what's the best situation for all of us, make it safe. We're really looking forward to coming back to the building, and just wanted to mention to you all that after today's sessions this evening at 8:30, we do have an after party taking place. So please hop on and hop in for that. Just wanted to give that plug. There is a link there that Mikey just posted in the chat. And Danielle, I believe you have one more question. Thank you, Danielle. Is your in-house or contract security going to assume different roles, physical distancing or otherwise? If you could just answer one more question, Laura. Thank you so much.
I'm happy to. So we're not the health police, and we're not bylaw officers.
Yes.
So our security force for Exhibition Place is there for asset security for the venue. And the event security has a role to play as well. It's really going to be up to the show organizer how they instruct their event security to perform. But again, you know, we have to remember that people have been going to the grocery store, people have been going to the drugstores, people are now starting to go to retail. Really, our industry is part of that society. We're part of the face-to-face experience, and people have a responsibility themselves when they come to the venue to be considerate of for their health and for the health of others. So that's really what we want to rely upon. Your choice for the clients, how you want to instruct your venue your event security to perform, but the venue security is there to look after the asset. We're
right, and our contracted security company is definitely going under our direction. So it's something that we would obviously have a few conversations about how we want to handle. And you know, by the time our event comes, things are just going to be the new normal for people, and you know, they're just going to know how to behave in public settings. And nothing should really be a surprise once we start getting events going, because the protocols and rules and safety has already been implemented at the, like you said, grocery stores and retail shops. So thank you for the questions, Danielle. Let's see what we got. Yes. Okay. So I think we're good to end a session. Thank you again, Laura. It was nice to see you. Missed you guys. Say hi to everyone on your side if you get a chance. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, Mikey and team, for putting this event on. Really happy to see everybody here. Missed you guys. I know we're all very eager, but safety first, right? So let's get through this together. And we'll see you guys at the after party.
okay.
Bye.
Thanks very much. Thank you.